Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Thursday, March 5th, and we are live. We are broadcasting on Rumble. We're on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. For all of you who are watching on Substack, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show live. Love your comments and loving spending some time over at Substack. We're also live on YouTube and Facebook as well. The beautiful, amazing Inez Annie Cyrus is producing the SJ Show today, and she's keeping an eye on all of your comments. So if you have a question or a comment, or you just need to get something off your chest, make sure you pop it up in the comment section, and she will post that to me so that I can answer all of you. For those of you who are listening at your leisure on the SJ podcast platform, really appreciate you. You can listen anytime, any place to the audio version of the Shannon Joy Show. Just make sure that you please give us a 5-star rating and a comment. That really helps us to grow the podcast portion of the Shannon Joy Show. And of course, thumbs up, likes, retweets, posts, comments, all of those things, all that activity on all the different platforms helps to grow the organic audience here on the SJ Show. As you know, we don't get any help from the algorithm because, well, we're completely independent. We don't carry water for the left wing or the right wing. It is independent news and analysis every single day from a truth perspective. And that closes off the pipelines to some of the mainstream news outlets. This is why that organic growth is so incredibly important. And you guys are at the center of all of that. We have grown the SJ email list. I was just talking with Sean, my email guy, the other day. And in just under 2 years, we have grown the SJ email list to about 52,000 email followers. And that list is so important, guys. For those of you who have signed up, you've gone to theshannonjoy.com and signed up for the daily e-news blast. This is so you never miss a show. You see all the headlines and you get access to all of the information, the links and the sources that I use every day to underscore all of the things that we're talking about. And for those of you who have signed up, again, 52,000, which is amazing, amazing. Thank you. This is the most important way for me to be connected to all of you. Right now, the SJ Show works works out in terms of platforming on all sorts of platforms like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Substack and you name it. We know that in certain times when censorship is afoot, that we can be deplatformed, and the SJ Show has been deplatformed many times, from radio stations, social media platforms, the permanent suspension from Twitter during the dark days of COVID, algorithmic suppression of the SJ Show. It's all there, and you never know when these companies are going to change hands, when someone's going to come in and buy up a company, and all of a sudden the algorithm that left you alone becomes hostile. So it's very important. It's one of the reasons I've built the show this way. We platform everywhere so that it is difficult to have the rug pulled out from everyone at any given time. But I diversify. The key to all of this, though, is my website, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, and that email list. So if you have not signed up for the SJ email, please do so today. That's at theshannonjoy.com, and that's a way that I can keep in touch with you. All right, love it. How are you guys doing today? We have Tiffany Cianci joining us in just about a half an hour. Fingers crossed. I haven't heard from Tiffany. We confirmed earlier this week, actually it was late last week, and we're both clearly very busy. We sent her the link. Hopefully she's coming in at the bottom of the hour. If not, we have a lot to talk about, and I have a lot of clips from Tiffany that we can run as well. But we're supposed to bring her in in just about 20 minutes. Hopefully that's going to work out. But we have a lot to talk about today. You see the headline, Plunder all the way down. Trump's heist is underway, and your nest egg, your pension, your 401k, your Roth IRA may be at risk. It's in the crosshairs. What's happening in private credit is unbelievable. And I have an overview here. Ed Dowd has been raising the alarm bells, Tiffany Cianci as well, about private equity and private credit. Now, we know in the first year of the Trump presidency, through a series of executive orders and legislation, that the Trump administration took down regulations that protected retirement accounts like pensions, IRAs, and 401ks from vultures in private equity and in private credit. Well, they opened up the floodgates for money managers and management firms to move, in some cases without your knowledge, funds from your 401k, IRA, or pension into some of these very risky private equity and private credit categories. Now, as the big guys, the billionaire class is exiting private credit, and this is through a story that's come out about Blackstone, it looks as if they might be replacing that funding with your retirement. And this is why I wanted to have Tiffany on today to help explain this. We'll see if we can get her on, if she's going to make it. But if not, we do have some videos on that. And I have a piece that I want to share with you. It is time for every one of you, if you have a 401k, IRA, or pension, to get in touch with the people who are managing that 401k, IRA, or pension and let them know that you want limitations put up. I mean, I'm not sure how much control people have, but this is getting pretty dicey. So we're going to look at that today on the SJ show. I also have a bunch of videos for you, a couple of Tiffany Cianci and also Lindsey Graham, now cornered by reporters yesterday on Capitol Hill, admitting that this is an illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral war in Iran. He, unbelievable. He has now declared it an undeclared war. And this is just days after Trump has come out and promised the forever and ever and ever war. It used to be ending endless wars. Now we just have them forever. And there's no end in sight. And we don't even have to declare them, says Lindsey Graham to all of his people. So we're going to hit that as well. A lot to get to, but this is what Pedro Gonzalez, if you're not following Pedro Gonzalez and Jason Bassler, you guys know I give you guys a ton of great resources. In terms of foreign policy and foreign affairs, Michael Yon is one of the best out there. You can follow him on Substack. This is what Pedro Gonzalez said about the war in Iran. He said it's very important to understand that this war did not need to happen. It has already been made clear that Iran was not about to attack the U.S. Iran was not about to get its hands on WMDs. But now the Trump-Vance administration has put Americans in harm's way and will use whatever harm might happen as further justification for escalating a war that did not need to happen. And if by chance Iran retaliates in the United States with an Islamic terror attack on U.S. civilians, you can be assured that the Trump administration will use that as an excuse to expand the techno-fascist police state and surveillance state here in the U.S. So we should just operate under the assumption that if something goes down, it's likely our own government that is the perp. And yesterday on the show, you guys, we laid that groundwork with Scott Shara, who just wrote a blockbuster book, Is the Government Legally Killing Us? And we laid down this assumption that, well, yeah, and we should also operate under the assumption that in today's world, the government does seem to be indifferent to the death and destruction of human bodies, American bodies. And I think we need to understand that. Today with Tiffany Cianci, I think we need to begin to operate under the assumption that the government is, yes, trying to steal everything. Your wealth, yes, they are plundering. And understanding that and acknowledging that, I think, is the first step to dealing with it, grappling with it, and then beginning to protect yourself. And so that is going to be the main portion of today's show. Now, Jason Bassler, another really great independent, not left, not right political analyst, had this to say, right? So a lot of chaos and disruption and violence in Iran, but we still need to keep our eye on the ball as to what is happening here in the United States of America. We just had the United States House of Representatives. This is disgusting, but we should expect nothing less from the people who are desperately trying to cover up the Epstein files and those who are complicit in child sex trafficking, child rape, and potentially murder. This is unbelievable. Just yesterday, the House now votes to block the release of its own sexual misconduct files. The U.S. House voted 357 to 65 yesterday to refer a resolution back to the Ethics Committee, effectively blocking public release of investigative files on sexual harassment claims against members, staff, and others. The push comes from Representative Nancy Mace after allegations against Representative Tony Gonzalez, but most lawmakers from both parties opted for the procedural sidestep. So we need to understand that the people who run things in Washington, D.C. are predators. And it is a predatory institution. And we need to fix this. We need to figure this out. I'm seeing more and more on social media about voting out all incumbents. I hope that happens. I think it should happen. But I don't know if voting is going to save us. I think that we need to begin to organize, activate, and refuse to comply with some of the things that are coming down the pike at the local level. We're going to talk to Tiffany about that in a moment. But Jason Bassler had to say this about all of the chaos. The fire hose in your face news cycle 24/7. It is relentless and it is accelerating. Keep your eyes on Iran, he says, but don't let them memory hole these things. And I agree with him. The Epstein files and arrests, surveillance. There was a crazy story about ring surveillance. The data center land grab, big tech and DHS collusion, the Teal Epstein connection, Zorro Ranch investigations, domestic terror databases, and immunity for the pesticide industry, which we talked about yesterday. There's a lot happening on Capitol Hill in the fog of war. And those are all areas that we're going to touch on here on the SJ Show. We're going to bring Jason Bassler in. Again, he's been with us on the Shannon Joy Show many times. We're going to try to bring him in. We do have Tiffany Cianci in the bullpen warming up to join us on the SJ Show. So we're going to get to her in just a couple of minutes. But I do want to say hello to all of you. From Substack, Nelson Sweetman, great to see you on the SJ Substack live feed. Good afternoon, Shannon. Marge Parker is with us. Thank God you have your show on Substack, Shannon. Thank you, Marge. I so appreciate that. We have Big Dog. What Israel did to Gaza using U.S. funding is what Israel and the U.S. are going to do to all the Middle East countries. I don't disagree with you, Big Dog, and they're going to try to do that here in the U.S. as well. Just watch them. I'm sure Tiffany's going to have a lot to say about that. On the Rumble live chat, Mr. Worthless Eater, I see you. Great to see you on the live chat on Rumble. We have Buskman, who is the very first chatter on Rumble today. Guitar Lily, great to see you. Mod Trend is with us. Mav 2022. Clones is with us as well on the live chat. So many new faces every day on the Rumble live chat. I love that. Linus is with us as well. And Mark the Regan. Again, if you guys have questions or comments, especially for Tiffany, she's absolutely brilliant. Don't let her sassy demeanor and fiery personality fool you. She's absolutely brilliant. Did an almost 3-hour interview with Catherine Austin Fitts just a couple weeks ago. So important that Catherine said that it was one of the most important interviews she has ever done. And Catherine Austin Fitts is maybe one of the most brilliant women on the face of the planet. So that's high praise from Catherine the Great for Tiffany Cianci. She is absolutely brilliant brilliant in terms of high finance, and she's able to speak about this in a language that people can understand, which is so absolutely critical. And we're going to bring her in just a moment after we get back from the first break to talk about the headline on today's show, on the SJ show: Plunder all the way down. Trump's heist is underway, and your nest egg is in the crosshairs. We have a special report with Tiffany Cianci in just a moment. So make sure you keep it tuned right here. This is your retirement. This is your livelihood. This is your future, the future for your children. Donald Trump, the State of the Union address just a little over a week ago, saying that his mission is to keep home prices inflated and high. What does that say about the American dream of home ownership? What are they doing to we, the people of the United States of America, as they distract us with wars and rumors of wars and one insane headline after another? We're going to discuss that with Tiffany Cianci in just a moment. So keep it tuned right here. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to get right into it, a whole hour with Tiffany. If you have questions, if you have comments, please put them in all caps on the live chat on Substack, Twitter, and here on Rumble. And we'll see if we can't do some Q&A with Tiffany towards the end of the show, because I think that could be very helpful to all of you. So keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a moment on the Shannon Joy Show. I want to invite you. I would love to meet you. I know that we have the website up for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. We are meeting live here in Rochester, New York on March 21st for a full day. It is the 2026 fourth annual Summit for Truth and Wellness. I will be there live along with Dr. William Makis, a leader in cancer care using ivermectin, fembendazole, membendazole. He has treated over 8,000 patients. He just got his medical license in the state of Florida. He is revolutionizing how cancers are treated. He is curing cancers. We're going to be talking about cancer care, cancer prevention with Dr. William Makis, and we're going to be joined by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She's going to be coming up from the great state of Texas to be with us live in Rochester, New York, and also, of course, the amazing Sasha Latapova, among other distinguished guests. We are about halfway to sell out on this summit. So we have about 5 weeks before the summit. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go ahead and get those tickets, because I do anticipate a full sellout. We have limited seating. It's going to be a beautiful morning of presentations, and then we are going to break and have a lovely luncheon afterwards. Plenty of time to meet and greet, to meet the speakers, fellowship, collaborate. It's just going to be an absolutely beautiful event. I love hosting it. And of course, all the proceeds, everything that we earn over the expenses to put the summit together will go to Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, an amazing organization that I've been working with for many years. Their mission is to provide an alternative to the medical industrial complex with, information, seminars, and they are seeking to build a brick and mortar wellness center right here in Rochester, New York. We want to help them get closer to that goal. Hey everyone, I am so proud to recommend Schiff Gold to this audience as the gold standard for metals purchasing and investing. I couldn't ask for a better partner to help people understand gold and silver and use them as strategic instruments to protect their family's financial future. Peter Schiff's teaching on markets has shaped my understanding of how economies grow and why they collapse. And I've used them as a critical source for my daily broadcast for over 10 years. The Shannon Joy Show audience already knows and loves Peter because he has been such a treasured educator over the years. He is now the preeminent source for rock-solid financial analysis around the world. And this is because he understands the immutable laws of natural markets and his stalwart unwillingness to veer from absolute truths regardless of economic fads and political pressures. Bottom line, he doesn't sell out. And that means a lot to me. I trust Shift Gold and you can too. Go to shiftgold.com/joy today to get started. You'll find some of the lowest spot prices for gold and silver and critical information on protecting your retirement savings with a gold or silver IRA. That's www.shiftgold.com/joy. Hedge against the chaos with our friends over at Shift Gold. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Without further ado, I want to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio the Tiffany Cianci. You can follow her on the Twitter. Her handle is the Vino Mom. In her description, I like my politics like my Merlot, deep inky purple and well balanced. She's a free speech advocate. And what I love about you, Tiffany, is you'll fight for everyone's right to disagree with you, but we need that free speech. You can follow her on TikTok as well. Tiffany, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show once again. You look great. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me back. I'm super excited to be here.
Well,
Although the circumstances are never what I wish we had.
I know. We have a lot to talk about today. I mentioned to the audience in the last segment, one of the areas of brilliance when it comes to you is your ability to talk about high finance, what the big guys are doing, like the big guys, in a way that people understand for the layperson, for regular people who have a 401k or a pension or a retirement account, a young kid just out of college who wants to buy a home. I mean, that used to be something that was just within everyone's grasp here in the United States of America for our history. I mean, it's one of the founding principles of our country, ownership, property ownership, and that American dream. It's being ripped away from our people. And, you are very good at explaining all of this. And there's a lot going on right now in finance as they are moving us into what appears to be a new economic global system that involves crypto and tokenization and creating new financial institutions and instruments. And it's all very confusing and all very worrying to so many people. And I just wanted to have you on to try to take apart some of this so that people could understand what's going on. And then with understanding, then we can begin to organize and resist and push back and do things to throw wrenches into their grand plans, which is my mission always. And I know it's yours too, right? There's only so much we can do, but we can throw wrenches, right?
We can.
Absolutely. Why don't we start with just an overview, from your perspective, like where are we? Since I talked to you last, we now have a war. We have the Epstein files. There's just chaos everywhere. What's your, 30,000 foot vantage point overview of what is happening today? What is the true state of the union here in the U.S.?
The state of the union in the U.S. has been really, it's like the emperor has no clothes. We're being absolutely just gaslit on a daily basis that the economy is doing great. The economy is doing great. The economy is doing great. Well, in this K-shaped economy, the economy is only doing great for the top 6%. It used to be the top 10%. Really, it's about top 6 to 8%. Wow. It is like the emperor has no clothes. I am so tired of being told on a daily basis how fabulous everyone is doing. I went to the grocery store last night. Okay. I shop clearance tags at the grocery store. I will go to the meat section and buy the stuff that's marked down and I'll flip it, right? I'm that kind of shopper. I grew up very poor. I'm scrappy. I had a cart that was 2/3 full that had very basic meals in it. It was $450. $450 for 7 meals that would have leftovers for a day or two, right? Like, you can't tell me that the economy is doing great. We know that all of the insurance companies and starting with Barclays just pulled all of the insurance slips for any shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. So we know at the Strait of Hormuz right now that we're about to lose a lot of oil shipping worldwide. That's going to lead to more inflation when the people can't bear another inch, let alone the miles this could take us. We know that companies don't suffer with their customers anymore. They just pass it along because we've reached a point of mass consolidation where in the past, companies would take a haircut with their customers when there was inflation to try to make sure you stayed loyal to them. There's so much consolidation now, they don't have any reason to. There are monopolies. We don't have anywhere else to go, right? And so they're not suffering at all. Nobody's stock prices are dropping. Everybody's just going up, up, and up to the moon. But we're at also a point where record withdrawals from 401ks are now, new record has been reached every month for the last 6 months in withdrawals from 401ks for people to meet basic needs for survival.
Wow.
We are not doing well. We are
Mhm.
not okay.
Those are hardship withdrawals, Tiffany?
Yeah, we're looking at hardship withdrawals. Record numbers of hardship withdrawals.
I've seen data on delinquencies on car loans, delinquencies on student loans, delinquencies on mortgage loans, and delinquencies on credit card loans. Like that, these come out, every quarter or so, and it just keeps getting worse for
Yes.
people. You talked about the consolidation and the monopolies, and this is an area that I think is really important for people to understand. And I would say going back, 20 years or so, I mean, one piece of legislation after another that puts up barriers to entry for small to medium-sized businesses, or actions like the Affordable Care Act, which put 5,000 health insurance companies out of business. Those were all the competitive companies, and consolidated all of that business into a few hands that was tethered to Washington, D.C. We saw during COVID and the lockdowns, the actions of the government determining who is essential and non-essential was essentially shutting down mom and pop, small to medium-sized businesses that competed with some of these large corporations. So we've seen essentially the government pave the way for merger after merger after merger in the area of food, real estate, healthcare, insurance, you name it. And so now you're right. It doesn't matter. Prices are going up and up and up, and consumers are being squeezed, and the companies don't care. They're like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Where else are you going to go? We're the only shop in town because the cartel government has helped us create that. That eliminates competition. They're never going to lose your business. And it's one of the reasons, Tiffany, I think that customer service is so bad.
Yep.
No one calls you back because there's nowhere else for people to go. Your thoughts on that?
What impetus do they have? One, it requires them to have staffing sufficient to provide that kind of callback, which they've cut staffing everywhere, and they're doing it. They're expediting that at a rapid pace right now and using AI as their excuse when AI isn't really replacing anyone outside of maybe intro level coders right now. It actually can't replace people very well, but they are using it as the excuse to engage in the largest group of mass layoffs we've seen since 2007.
Wow.
Okay. And so we're seeing mass unemployment. It's not been reflected yet in the jobs numbers, but they also just went and they reevaluated the jobs numbers for 2025 and downgraded the job creation by 950,000 jobs.
Wow.
Nobody reported on it, but they said they created millions of jobs in 2025 as they were, again, the emperor has no clothes, right? They told us they'd created millions and millions of jobs and then waited until March and downgraded that estimate by almost 1 million jobs. Now we're not crazy. You're not crazy if you're watching this show and saying, I'm not okay. My neighbors aren't okay. Financially, we're not okay. Mentally, we're not okay. Health-wise, we're not okay. No one is okay except the top 10%. And I am sorry, but systematically, historically, whenever any civilization has reached a point of consolidation where you had 90% of the population doing poorly and 10% of the population doing well, that civilization either engaged in uprising, violence, overturn, revolution, or outright war. And not with a country like Iran, with one another. Right now, billionaires should be begging us for taxation. And I'm not saying that's the answer. I am not. Billionaires should be begging us to tax them because the alternative is a French Revolution guillotine.
That's right.
And billionaires are saying that, by the way. I took that quote directly from a bunch of billionaires that were on a podcast together saying, why aren't we begging to be taxed? Do you know what's going to happen to us?
Right. Well, I think, it's extraordinary what is happening. And, the billionaire class, it's probably why they have bunkers, Tiffany. In fact, let's run that. Annie, do you have my bunker video? That you don't hate these people enough, by the way, everyone. You do not hate these people enough. While Annie's grabbing that video, Tiffany, I was telling the audience yesterday, I have a 14-year-old son, and I asked him, I said, are you guys talking about Epstein with your buddies? Like, what are you talking about at the lunch table? And he said, yeah, we're talking about the Epstein files. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, we're talking about how our government eats babies. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Like, think about that. This generation, this COVID generation that had their childhood ripped away from them. We grew up trusting our government. We grew up believing in our government. If we didn't, we maybe said they were crooks or thieves
Yeah.
or dishonest. This generation is growing up under the assumption that our government rapes children, traffics children, and eats them. Like,
Yep.
that is mind blowing.
It's a void that's been left by what used to be filled with the American dream. Okay, children were brought up to be patriotic, to love their country, and to believe that their future was going to be better than the future of their parents. And we had always made sure of that, really, until the boomers, right? The boomers were the last generation that didn't really care and started pulling the ladder up behind them. Gen Xers, they want it, but they're in the same group right now. They did a little better as long as they got a house before 2020. They're okay. That they don't have the ability because none of the boomers are leaving their jobs. None of them. They're hanging on to power, literally like somebody hanging to the deck chair on a Titanic right before they tumble over. They're not willing to let go. Those nails are scratching across and they won't let go. And because of it, they're destroying everything for every generation after them. It's horrifying to watch. My son is a straight A student, very good boy, very smart, very intelligent. The only time I've ever been called to the school for a parent-teacher conference, they had a Martin Luther King project. And he had to make a poster about, I have a dream. And it was supposed to be what they wanted to be when they grew up, or like some vacation they wanted to go on, whatever they were dreaming about.
Right.
I was sure my son was going to choose to do something about being a race car engineer, because that's what my then 7, almost 8-year-old son wanted to be. He wrote a poster, a giant poster, and they said they couldn't hang it up in the hallway because his poster said, I have a dream that private equity won't keep hurting small businesses. My 7-year-old son, it ripped my heart out of my chest.
It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. And to your point about the bill, I mean, the K-shaped economy essentially is no one's doing well. They gaslight us about it. They tell us we're doing well. We're not. And more wealth and power is funneled into an elite class, 10%, maybe 6 or 8%. And, conservatives and Republicans are particularly vulnerable to this messaging because we've been taught for so many years that, well, private businesses and capitalism and, free markets. And we tend to think anything that is pro-business or pro-billionaire or anything that is pro-billionaire is pro-business, that they're going to create jobs and this and that. And what we don't realize is that this is not a free market. This is not really capitalism.
Nope.
There's no competition. This is the government kind of appropriating corporatism and corporatism appropriating government. It is this unholy alliance between the corporate class and the government class, and they scratch each other's backs.
At this point, I don't even know if that's what it is. It feels more like a big puppet show that is entirely controlled by the corporate class. I'm not even going to say that I believe at this point that a single person in Washington is capable of helping us. I think that Massey and Roe are muscling it through. And I'm going to be honest, at this point, I'd like to see them run together in 28. That's where I'm at. Genuinely. Aside from like this scrappy group of the No Pax Caucus, which is only 10 members of Congress strong, by the way, the No Pax Caucus is single-handedly dragging minor pieces of change along for us to prove it can be done. But we are watching the biggest puppet show in human history, and it is all being guided by a system of elites that absolutely control our elected officials through money.
I don't disagree. Annie, let's pull up that bunker video as we set up the rest of our conversation. Really, you don't hate them enough, but this was just pushed out on social media and it's pretty much a jaw dropper. Let's roll the tape and I'll get Tiffany's thoughts when we come back.
Zuckerberg, Tate brothers, Kardashians.
How many does Bill Gates have?
He's got 11.
He's got 11 bunkers.
You'll see how tall my bunker is. Now, normally you would think a bomb shelter is about this tall, about 7 feet tall, but look how tall mine are. This is my fat boy.
Oh, wow. Gee, it's like an apartment.
It's bigger than a New York apartment. We can put 2 of these together, 3 of these. Tate Brothers got 6 of these put together.
6?
Yeah, and as he says, he's going to have stripper poles.
Hopefully the Tate Brothers locked themselves in there and they can't find the key.
And if you're curious what it costs, it's only $400,000.
So if the Tate Brothers bought 6 of these, that's nearly $3 million. Well, that's...
Well, 3.9. Yeah.
I hope you got a deposit.
Wealthy people are not cutting any corners. Okay, imagine this. You're building a house and you have a secret passage. It opens up and it reveals a staircase or a hatch that leads down to a private bunker. So making houses with secret passages through secret walls, with secret bunkers, is just a very in thing. When I started making the bunkers in 2011, people put the odds of seeing a civil war or a World War III in their lifetime at about 1%. Right now, it's over 50%.
Tiffany Cianci, your thoughts on the elites, the upper echelon. Bill Gates has 11. The Tate brothers have 4, complete with stripper poles in their bunkers. Your thoughts?
I mean, you have to wonder what it is about this class of individuals that have all of the power and authority to stop the need for bunkers and instead just choose to hunker down and decide to be the last of the human race. And they're going to ride it all the way until it's burning in rubble and there's nothing left. They have all of the power in the world to make it stop and stop us going in that direction. And instead they're doubling down and building bunkers. We have to starve them. We have to starve them. We have to starve the billionaire class. We have to. And it's going to require an immense amount of sacrifice and an immense amount of willingness for us to work together and start trusting people that we have been conditioned to turn away from, to start reaching out our hands, working across aisles that don't really exist, that are absolutely artificial. And we need to start turning our attention in the same direction instead of at one another.
I agree. And I think that, from my perspective, there's really nothing in Washington, D.C. that can be done. I'm boycotting the 2020 elections. I just think it's so corrupt.
I actually think primaries are the best place for us to go and take action right now. We need to vote against every incumbent, every single
primaries.
Yes. They need to stop thinking their jobs are secure.
Yes, I think that primaries, of course, though, then, Tiffany, we are relying upon voting machines that we have no control over, right? I don't even get a receipt when I vote.
Did you see the recent report that Trump has drafted an executive order to take control of state level voting?
This does not surprise me.
Emergency?
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be? See, but this is why I'm saying, like, if we pin our hopes on elections, watch President Trump declare a national emergency because of the war in Iran or domestic insurgents and cancel elections, at least federal elections. Like, you could see it happening. So we have to build other areas of resistance and pushback, which I think we can. We can talk about that in a little bit, as we move towards solutions. But I have been, for 10 years, I've been bottom up local organization. There is strength in numbers. Get connected to the people who are in your backyard. Correct. In terms of all of the things. We'll talk about that. I think that this distraction of D versus R, left versus right. I do love the Massey Ro Khanna alliance. I think we do have to unite somehow people that we wouldn't talk to about politics. We have to find people who love the Constitution and love freedom and love liberty and love truth and all those things on both sides of the political aisle in order to kind of muscle our way, to use your terms, through the next few years. Sure. But yeah, you mentioned, I want to go to break in a minute. When we come back, we're going to talk about private credit and private equity and your retirement, because this is going to be, when they rip your retirement away, that's going to be the moment that they're going to want to clamp down. That's when things are going to get really dicey. And I think that the more people who are protected against that, who know what's going on, the better, because then we have an infrastructure of people who are still solvent when this all comes crashing down on our head, and we can help other people. So that's kind of my big picture thesis here. Yeah. But I do want to broach AI and the excuse that AI is taking all the jobs, because you mentioned that just a moment ago. And I've seen an enormous amount of propaganda from the billionaire tech guys like Elon Musk, essentially, pushing out this doomsday scenario that the robots are coming, the AI is coming, all of your jobs are going to go, and we're going to have this one world, like, super intelligent, godlike thing that is going to control all of us and everything. I think that they're way overhyping this, and that there's an AI bubble. They don't want you to know it, and that's why they're pushing this so heavily. They also need to they need to distract people away from the real cause of the job losses, which is mismanagement of our economy and the theft and the plunder by the billionaire class. But, what are your thoughts on AI, the AI bubble, the tech bubble, and it being used as an excuse for the job losses?
I want to be very clear that right now we have this very small handful of tech billionaires that are being given way too much oxygen on all media sources as the sole voice in the AI industry. And right now it's because we have this mass consolidation with a few AI companies that have been artificially propped up to be the winners in the AI race that are going to deliver America the big win. But the reality is that if we want America to win the AI race, and if we want America to win the general intelligence race, we actually need to lean back on open source, right? That's what other countries are doing. You want tens of thousands of people trying to create the best idea. There is no world where we rely on 5 billionaires and they say, if you give us all of your data, we promise one of us will figure out the right thing that's going to make us all a lot of money. And we're going to get rid of, 60% of the jobs. Or as Sam Altman put it, it's probably going to be the end of the world, but some cool companies are going to be created. A lot of money is going to be made. It's going to be interesting, which is horrifying. But what's happened is we've put all of these focuses on these very few billionaires that are just creating terror porn, right? That's what they're doing. And people keep listening, not because they want to listen to them, but because they need to feel like they have some sense of control with all of this doom that's being shouted at them. There are other voices. I work regularly with a man named Dr. Travis Oliphant. He invented most of the languages that AI are built on in the libraries in open source and gave it all away for free for the good of humanity. And right now, he has a completely different argument. He believes that what should happen, the data that we have is what's most valuable. Those companies are desperate for our data because they can't train new models without it. And that we actually possess the value and we need to learn to monetize our own value, and that everybody should be able to have their own AI. And if you have your own AI, you can create your own companies and we can create new jobs to replace anything that's displaced. They want us to believe that we should give them all our data for free and they'll create something. None of us have to wait for that. And they want us to believe it because they are desperate for the value we hold. We need to deny them that. We need to cut off their access to what we possess that they are reliant on to continue their monopolies when they're not going to create the best thing. It requires open sourcing hundreds of thousands of ideas. That's the American way. That's American ingenuity. And people should be listening to the real godfathers of AI that actually see a different path forward.
Absolutely. And that's the dirty little secret about AI, right? It can be useful. I like it-ish sometimes. Most of it I think is pretty worthless and a waste of time. But I can see it in the future, helping humanity. But it doesn't replace humanity. In fact, AI needs human brilliance, human human access in order to create anything. And you see this with this piece about Meta, the creepers and the pervs at Mark Zuckerberg's Meta. We're now finding out that their spy glasses or smart glasses are spying on all the users, including people who are not holders of spy glasses, but everyone in their proximity, right? Here it is. Meta workers say that they're disturbed and they're seeing disturbing things through users' smart glasses. Users didn't realize that humans would be watching them. And here's the dirty secret. And this was a quick write-up. There was a story by Victor Tangerman. Meta's Ray-Ban glasses need human data annotators to train the AI. Desperately. So they want you to think that this is inevitable. You have no privacy ever again. It's all over. You need to give them everything so they can train their little models. No, they need humans to train the models, and they need your information and your data. And this is leading to workers from Kenya telling Swedish journalists that they see people undressing, using bathrooms, having sex, and filming all sorts of proprietary things. These rando
people are wearing these in boardrooms. Meta could be stealing secrets from executives in boardrooms right now. Right? And that's the only way we're ever going to get privacy back is if we make people in boardrooms care about the fact that these companies are actually getting access to their proprietary data. Because intellectual property is the only thing that's going to get any reinstitution of privacy. But we do have the capacity to starve them of our data. We have that choice. It requires a lot of work, a lot of effort. It requires us to go in and change settings in our devices, in our emails. And there's a reason that we've always gotten things for free. There's always been a trade-off, and it's always been the data. I would rather
Right.
pay for my access than allow them a single moment of free access to my data. I would rather pay for what I get. I would rather that.
Tiffany, I see a trend in the markets towards privacy, and that gives me, I have been screaming about privacy for 12 years. And every time I would talk about privacy, they'd be like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, Shannon, then you shouldn't matter. You know, it shouldn't matter to you.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I,
Let's just give it up and like it'll never come back to haunt us later, ever. No one's ever
ever,
done that in history.
ever, right? That's excuse number one. Excuse number two is the fallacy of inevitability. Like, there's nothing you can do. They have it anyway. See, I don't get scanned at the airport. And every time I go through the airport, my husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy, is like, they have your face anyway, Shannon. Like your face is all. I'm like,
I do the same thing.
I'm like, I know, but I don't care. Clearly, they want it. They want to scan it at the airport for some reason. So
They're
I'm going to
training their
deny
data
that.
modules on it.
Right.
They're training
Exactly.
their learning models on it.
Yeah. So, but Tiffany, I think that is ending. I think people are creeped out by AI, big tech, the robots, and I could foresee in the next 10 years privacy becoming very important to more and more Americans and people across the globe.
I'll go a step further. I actually believe that we are programmed evolutionarily to be very, very uncanny valley creeped out by AI in general. Even the best AI videos I've seen have given me very uncomfortable feelings, and we are evolutionarily programmed for that. We literally need to start listening to our internal selves. We've been conditioned by these quick scroll videos, right? This short term, like dopamine hit video systems to make us get past that and say, well, no, I want this. I want this. I want more of this. Let me tell you, if you want to see who the next $1 billion social media network is going to be, it's going to be the one that bans any account that lets anything AI touch it. We're going to go back. And if you look over at, like, there's a company here in America right now that exists that was very popular in the 90s and 2000s that is more popular than ever in Europe because they're actually turning away from this, right? It's meetup.com. Over in Europe right now, meetup.com is doing huge numbers of people just trying to turn back to people. We still have that here in the US. We can start sharing that with our friends right now.
I love
We can
it.
do that right now. But we're about to see people going back to people, and we're going to see like that the places people want to go are where the technology is not. It's gonna come to a head, and we have to start turning away. It's not easy, and we have to pry it out of our children's hands. It is so dangerous.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I want a dumb house. I want dumb tech. I want a washing machine that just washes clothes and a car that just goes. That's it. I don't need all the bells and whistles and all of the surveillance and the electronics. I think that that's going to be a huge space in the future, and I'm here for it. Tiffany Sian, she joins us today. She is the Vino Mom at the Vino Mom on Twitter, and you can follow her on TikTok as well. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into private equity, private credit, really disturbing things happening in private credit. And it appears as if this administration has paved the way for these massive billion-dollar companies to go after and use your 401k, your IRA, your retirement to gamble. And it's putting millions of Americans at risk. And we're going to learn about that in just a moment with Tiffany when we come back. At 123.com/joy. Everything that you're going to need for preparation: generators, solar panels, Faraday products. If you want to disappear and protect yourself from the surveillance state, they have an entire line of amazing Faraday products called dark bags. They're always 10% off at the satellite phone store if you go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. The satellite phone store has supported the Shannon Joy Show for many years. They are amazing partners, and let's help the companies that help keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. So if you are in the market for any of their products or services, make sure you use that promo code JOY and go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. I want to invite you. I would love to meet you. I know that we have the website up for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. We are meeting live here in Rochester, New York on March 21st for a full day. It is the 2026 4th Annual Summit for Truth and Wellness. I will be there live along with Dr. William Mackis, a leader in cancer care using ivermectin, fembendazole, mebendazole. He has treated over 8,000 patients. He just got his medical license in the state of Florida. He is revolutionizing how cancers are treated. He is curing cancers. We're going to be talking about cancer care, cancer prevention with Dr. William Makis, and we're going to be joined by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She's going to be coming up from the great state of Texas to be with us live in Rochester, New York, and also, of course, the amazing Sasha Latapova, among other distinguished guests. We are about halfway to sell out on this summit. So we have about 5 weeks before the summit. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go ahead and get those tickets, because I do anticipate a full sellout. We have limited seating. It's going to be a beautiful morning of presentations, and then we are going to break and have a lovely luncheon afterwards. Plenty of time to meet and greet, to meet the speakers, fellowship, collaborate. It's just going to be an absolutely beautiful event. I love hosting it. And of course, all the proceeds, everything that we earn over the expenses to put the summit together will go to Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, an amazing organization that I have been working with for many years. Their mission is to provide an alternative to the medical industrial complex with information, seminars, and they are seeking to build a brick and mortar wellness center right here in Rochester, New York. We want to help them get closer to that goal. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Today, we're joined by Tiffany Cianci. She is an expert financial analyst. You can find her on Twitter. She is the Vino Mom, and Tiffany is going to tell us about our retirement, your nest egg, your 401k, your Roth IRA, your pension. You've been saving your entire life and putting a little bit away every month so that you can retire in relative comfort. And that's all at risk now, Tiffany, because Donald Trump and his administration has accelerated the consolidation of private equity and private credit, and they have opened up the door for a lot of shenanigans to happen within those markets, which are putting people's retirement at risk. And it's a complex topic. I probably mangled it there a little bit, but there's no better person than you to explain to every American how they are at risk right now because of the actions of this president and what they are going to move us into. So why don't I just hand it over to you to give a full explanation so people can understand?
So that's a very, very large bundle to unpack. I think I'll start with a little bit of history, and that is that every single president since Carter has loosened restrictions on private equity to the detriment of the American people. Every single president, going back to Carter, has given them a little more grace and given the American people a little less. Every single president has made it so that more and more could be gobbled up by private equity and more consolidation could happen. But the two largest expansions, actually the largest one happened under Clinton. It's easy to say, oh, it was Clinton's fault. Well, he did it with 98% support from a bipartisan Congress.
Of course.
Okay? And so he created the greatest expansion of access for the private markets with the greatest reduction in oversight. And then we saw more or a similar expansion under Obama, again, with almost 98% support from a bipartisan Congress. Okay. Now, Trump in his first term was actually the very first president to increase restrictions on private equity since Carter. He didn't do much. All he did was say that they had to hold their investments for at least 3 years to benefit from the tax loopholes that had been created by the other presidents. Prior to that, it had been reduced so that there was no holding period. And it made them hold for just a little bit longer. And I thought that meant that we had some hope that he was serious about draining the swamp when he came into this term, promising to close the carried interest loophole. Now, the carried interest loophole is a loophole that allows private equity to pay 70% less in taxes than regular earners on the money that they make, right? They make, and it can be anywhere, it depends on where they are, but it can be anywhere from 40 to 70% less, okay, than a regular earner. If I make money, they pay 70% less than I do on the same amount of income.
Wow.
All right. Through the carried interest loophole. He came into this term promising to close it. It had almost been closed under Biden. It came down to one single vote. They had the numbers, and Kristen Sinema took millions of dollars from private equity firms. They promised to make Arizona the seat of private equity for the United States. It gave her a ton of money and she voted against it and it failed. So Trump came into office this time saying, we're going to close that loophole. We're going to drain the swamp. Right. And so I was hopeful because he had tightened restrictions in his first term. What he did was he started speaking about it pretty regularly at last year's first big speeches, State of the Union, etc. And he ended up raising a ton of money on that threat and then very quickly abandoned it. He didn't talk about it. It's not like he did anything. It just went away. And as an alternative, he delivered for private equity firms and their lobby groups something that they've been seeking for almost a decade. Because for the last decade, private equity firms have seen that they were creating a death spiral of ever increasing debt loads on the companies they were acquiring through their leverage buyouts. They recognized that at a certain point, the jig would be up and they needed access to everyday non-institutional investors, retail investors like us, to try and bail them out. So they started lobbying almost a decade ago for access to 401ks. Now, throughout all of history, the only thing that really stopped 401ks from investing in private equity is that if your funds were mismanaged, you could sue your fund manager for entering into something that was extremely high risk. And all private equity is extremely high risk because you can't audit or evaluate the investment. So all of it is extremely high risk. Well, what happened was just a couple months ago, after much screaming, much fighting, much effort by my followers to try and stop it, not only did he deliver it, but he delivered a bonus. He wrote an executive order that ordered the SEC to immediately find a way to grant access for all 401k managers to start investing our 401ks in private equity. Now, this happened on the heels of some really big alarm bells for private equity, right? Harvard and Yale, which were endowments that were overwhelmingly invested in private equity, announced that they'd seen like 4% returns on things that were expected to be 70% returns.
Wow.
And started selling off $8 billion in private equity assets. We saw that we had $4 trillion in unsellable assets that were stuck on the desks of private equity investors because they had so over leveraged their investments that they could no longer sell them in the retail marketplace. And so as a result, they couldn't close out their funds. At the same time, we learned that over the last 3 months of 2025, because of all of those assets they couldn't sell, they couldn't close out funds they were legally obligated to close out to return money to their investors. So they started engaging in a new Ponzi scheme called continuation funds, where when they couldn't sell the assets they had, and they couldn't even sell them to one another anymore because they were so over leveraged, funds like Platinum Equity, as a good example, started creating a second fund where they would bring in new investors and get their money and say, we're going to invest your money really well and we're going to get you amazing returns. And they would sell their own assets to themselves with new investor money to pay out the old investors.
Oh my gosh.
At artificial valuations. And right now, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund is actually suing Platinum Equity in New Jersey over this Ponzi scheme because they were giving fake valuations to the investors and they were giving different numbers based on how worried they were you wouldn't give them your money.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so all of this is going on in the background. We know that $100 million was transferred through these continuation funds in just the last 3 months, 2025. And then Trump delivers them the Trump card they needed, which was he issued an executive order that granted them access to our 401ks. Now this is, and they called it democratizing investment.
Yeah.
We're no longer just keeping private equity for the billionaires. Now you get a chance. You can join us. We're letting you into the cool kids club. This is not democratizing investment. This is socializing the downside effects. They're socializing the risk so that we bear the actual aftermath like we always do. Okay. And in that executive order, he also wrote in a legal carrot that made it so it's almost impossible for you to sue your fund manager if they improperly invest your funds with private equity.
Immunity.
If they have a conflict of interest.
Wow. So granting immunity, they've done this for vaccine corporations. They're doing it for glyphosate and chemical corporations now. They're weaving that into legislation. And now they are protecting these Ponzi schemes. Correct. And making it impossible for people when the rug gets pulled out to sue them or have any type of response to what is essentially theft. This is disgusting.
Correct. And we know this is a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah.
We know this for a fact. And we know this because the way that 401ks are managed and the costs affiliated with it are very, very low, incrementally low, like 0.5%. Okay.
Yeah.
For managing your funds to 1.5%. We know that the fee model for private equity is why they never lose. They have something called a 2 and 20 model, which means they get 2%, they get to charge 2% of everything that's invested all the time and 20% of your gains. All right. So if you look at investing your money, let's say that I invest $100,000 in my 401k, and over a decade, I end up with $150,000 in returns. Okay. For my 401k standard investment, I'm going to pay $6,700 on average as my fees for that whole decade to get out $150,000 in upside. If I do that through private equity, I owe $67,000.
Wow.
You have to invest millions of dollars to ever see a benefit. And that's if you got 150% return, which is laughable, right? 40% would be amazing. That was an extreme example. If it were lower, you're talking about more and more of that percentage of your upside getting gobbled up by private equity, which is why you have to invest millions of dollars with private equity to ever see a benefit as good as your standard 401k investment without the entire upside getting gobbled up and you actually paying more out in fees than you made. Right. This is them just gobbling up your money through management fees. Right. You don't need to do that. We don't have to do that. 401ks are successful the way that they are. Right. And we already have control. So they got that. They got the gift that keeps on giving. And now fund managers are going to get offered these massive, massive commissions for delivering your money to these 401ks to bail them out. They have $12 trillion in assets they can now invest to bail out the 4 trillion that private equity can't move. They need your money.
Wow.
Just like big AI needs your data. Right? Every time it's these big mega corporations that need you to survive. And we keep thinking the government is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. No one is coming to help us.
Absolutely. And recently, the news about Blackstone, private credit, what we're seeing right now is that they are continuing to bleed. The big investors, the people got in. I mean, this is what it sounds like to me. And tell me if I'm wrong. So it seems like for the past 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, all of these presidents have been giving this nice little Benny to rich people and billionaires, like this nice little pocket, this little private equity pocket where they could go in, get 70% returns, I think you mentioned, on their investment, engage, enjoy zero taxes, or what is it, 70% less in taxes, and incredible gains. And it was only for rich people, people in the know, people who are connected. And so that
was also artificial. They were strip mining American excellence and ingenuity to do it. They weren't making anything but money by taking out money that would have benefited the community later.
Right. Explain that though, because the private equity is the apparatus, but then what they did was they used that to go in to buy up mom and pops, franchise operations, businesses. They'd go in and say they're going to invest, right? But they didn't invest so that those businesses, those small, I mean, we're talking about an attack on small to medium-sized businesses and the free market where they go in, they make all of these promises. They have this great infrastructure that no one else has access to, where, this pot of money. And they use that to literally strip mine these businesses, put them out of business. Can you just explain that to people how that worked? Because that was phase one.
I have an analogy that I really like to use for this. Okay. Private equity operates through a leveraged buyout system that gives them access to credit markets, and nobody can see what's happening inside. No one in the government, none of the banks, nobody. It's a black box. I've been advocating, and this is where the private credit markets come in later. For a long time, I've believed that these private equity firms were using the same collateral to collateralize multiple lines of credit. And what happens is they go in and they buy a company, but they don't actually use almost any of their own money, usually like 1 to 2%. Okay. They invest other people's money, mostly pensioners. All right. And then they borrow. So they'll take like the first 10% might be pension in their money. They have 1%, 9% of pensioners. The next 90% comes from a bank. And the bank is going to dump all of that debt onto the company they have bought. This is the equivalent of me going out to buy a car. Now, this car is a used car. It's a used car that was really great. Carfax report was clean. Everything was perfect. It was operating well. It was a fair price, and it was doing good work for the people that owned it.
Right.
I'm going to go in like private equity, and I'm going to decide that I'm going to buy that car, and I'm going to make the car responsible to pay back the debt. I no longer bear any liability, and I can take on excessive debt.
Yeah.
Let's say that I've decided I'm going to pay double the price because it's a friend of mine, and I'm going to make the car pay back that money. Well, the car now has to figure out how to go out and make that money. So let's say that the car is going to go out and start taxiing or Ubering or lifting, and that's how it's going to pay back its money. While the car is doing that, I'm going to sign myself up as the car's Uber manager, and they're going to owe me 15% of everything they make as their manager through our new contract arrangement. I'm also going to get them an accountant that's a buddy of mine inside my facility, and they're going to pay them 11%, right? Then I'm going to say that's not enough. I really need some cash quick. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look, and the car owned a garage, free and clear.
Right.
I'm going to go sell that garage to my buddy for a discount, and I'm going to lease it back to the car at an inflated rate so it has a new bill every month. Let's say the car had a stockpile of gas and oil and backup parts like air filters. I'm going to sell those to a liquidator, and I'm going to dividend that money back to myself.
Wow.
And now the car has no fallback plan if something goes wrong, no spare tires, nothing. It can't survive an economic downturn. Then, while the car is still finding a way, it's finding a way because it was an excellent car built on American ingenuity, and it was built on American excellence. And so it's still finding a way somehow with all of these roadblocks and all of this new debt. I'm going to go to a bank and go, look how well it's performing. I'm going to expand this apparatus. I'm going to get it new routes, and I'm going to have it work 24 hours a day. I want to borrow more money for the expansion, and the bank's going to loan it more money. And I'm not going to use that money to pay down the debt. No, I'm going to dividend that back to myself as a bonus. And at a certain point, the car is going to run out of gas, and it's going to also have a flat tire. And because of all of this new debt, it can't pay those bills, and the car is going to go bankrupt. And the taxpayers are going to have to pick up that bill, and the pensioners are not going to get made whole. But those investment managers that were managing under 2 and 20 and dividending back themselves all of their money in the first 3 months, they're going to be fine. And the bankers are going to be fine too, because as soon as they loaned that money, they bundled it into a CLO, a collateralized loan obligation. You'll remember those from 2008. And they sold that off to pensioners and 401ks too as a diversified asset. So they're not going to bear any risk either. And then they're going to loan it to that guy again after this next bankruptcy and the one after that, because it's all happening in a black box. And those original people that bought it bore no responsibility whatsoever. They're not at risk.
Unbelievable. And this is really what has happened to small and medium-sized businesses across the United States of America for the past 20, 30 years. And they've destroyed so many of them that there are really no more to destroy. And so the returns that they were getting are dwindling. And so now, but they need more money. And some of them are demanding their money back. I mean, this is where we are now. So now private credit or private equity is not delivering the returns they used to deliver because they've strip mined everything.
And they've over leveraged it with debt, which is what's really important.
And they've over leveraged it with debt. So the billionaire class is saying, we want our money back. We're nervous about this economy because of the war, because of Donald Trump, because of all the things happening. We're moving into cash. We're moving into gold. We're moving into silver, and they're pulling their money out. That's the story that we're seeing with Blackstone, right? And Blackstone is paying the money. Somehow they're finding the money.
Not somehow. Do you want to know how Blackstone paid the money? Because they did this a year and a half ago with their Bright Fund. That was their first retail investor fund, and they had to halt withdrawals abruptly, and they had to go and they had to buy, they had to take on more dividendable debt for some of their other companies to pay out because they ran out of money to pay out the Bright Fund. Well, that now we're seeing that they've had so many drawdowns from their new retail investors that they have just sent their executives to borrow $150 million because they can't make anyone whole.
Wow.
Blackstone. They can't do it. And so they are literally sending out their executives to find $150 million they can borrow because they've had so many people trying to withdraw under this risk. And I actually think that what's happening right now, and I'm hoping I'm right, but they'll find a way to patch it, I'm sure, is that Trump was too late. That he was supposed to deliver this so that they could get this cash infusion in time to save them from all of this.
And to be clear, so everybody understands, this cash infusion
is our 401k.
It's opening up the floodgates for your 401k. So your IRA, your pension. So you saved up $300,000. You don't even know, because no one would voluntarily send their money into something risky and horrifying like this.
Correct.
But your fund manager is being maybe wined and dined or sold or whatever. and they're moving big blocks of money, or they were supposed to move big blocks of money into these private credit markets to make them solvent. And then they would crash them on your head and be worth nothing. And that was the scheme. But you're saying you think they might have been too late?
I think they were a little bit too late. And what's happened is, unfortunately, they had to apply a lot of pressure. And so they teamed up with crypto to get it done. But I think what's happened is that the sell-off by Harvard and Yale came just a little bit too soon. And we also, we're seeing right now in real time a bunch of pensions that are getting the downside effects of their private equity investments from a decade ago. A really good example is the Oregon State Teachers Union. The Oregon State Teachers Union did an over investment in private equity. Instead of into index funds and money markets where they were supposed to put the money. They had one guy that got brought in and got wined and dined, and he overinvested with private equity. And what happened was the teachers union ended up seeing 4% returns on what would have been 46% returns in the market. And as a result, the pension is insolvent, and they've had to let go of or not rehire 14,000 teachers in the state of Oregon to shore up the private equity mess. We're seeing the same thing in Girl Scouts, by the way, who just a decade ago basically bankrupted their pension in private equity, and now they've sold off like 70% of the campgrounds in the United States, and that's why they've hiked the prices of Girl Scout cookies to the moon, and girls are getting less than they've ever gotten per box, while they're hawking them online right now and saying, this is our digital pivot. This is our digital pivot because girls need to live in a digital world. No, you sold all the campgrounds, so this is the only thing you can do.
Oh, my word. Yeah, can you eat digital cookies? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, that's insane. That's insane. We saw headlines from California as well. There was some shenaniganizing with their teacher's pension, or their pension, the pension fund. Go ahead.
CalPERS has been one of the biggest recipients of over leveraged private equity investment. And they actually finally just voted out one of their people that was really like pushing that narrative. And now they're drawing down their private equity investments. But that's the problem. Private equity saw their institutional investors were all getting out, and they need the money to come from somewhere to keep the scheme going. And they were counting on it being us. Well, unfortunately, and there's a difference between private equity and private credit. Okay, private equity is when you use, when you go and you buy companies. Private credit is when you lend money to companies privately.
Got it. Okay.
And so private credit is very much integrated with the private equity scheme. There's a lot of private credit transactions that private equity funds started engaging in, and it's basically a private banking system of people lending money. The problem is that they got reliant on these private equity funds to continue to do well, and they're not. And we're seeing that in real time. We're seeing it with the downfall of Tricolor Holdings and First Brands, which were the first two big canaries in a coal mine. In my opinion, the Bright Fund was, but not everybody agrees with me on that, but I think I'm right on that, is that the Bright Fund was really the first alarm bell, and it was 2 years ago almost now.
Wow. Okay.
When they had to halt trading. Now we've seen that Tricolor Holdings and First Brands both went bankrupt within like 9 months of acquisition. And their executives at the private equity fund, they made out like bandits. Meanwhile, they bankrupted all of the private creditors and the private credit like investment that went into that acquisition, right? Simultaneously, we see the CEOs of Apollo. He's saying that there's a big problem. There's a reckoning. Jamie Dimon, back on October 14th, said, I see this as there's a cockroach. And when you see one cockroach, there's probably a lot of cockroaches. That was a Jamie Dimon direct statement, right? We know that Blue Owl, which is a private credit engagement bank system, they halted withdrawals recently, and nobody can withdraw their money. They tried to spin it and say, we're going to pay you out as we get returns. So you might get your money faster now. You just don't know. We're just going to pay you out when we want to. Well, that ended up leading to one of like the most famous economists of all time, Mohammed El-Erian. He said, absolutely not. This is a massive canary in the coal mine. This is going to be a reckoning for global markets. Absolutely not. And so we're not seeing one thing. We're seeing a whole bunch of alarm bells. And it came right when they were trying to convince all of us to let our 401ks go to bail out this problem. And they needed it to be just a few months earlier, I think. And thank God it wasn't. Thank God.
Wow. Okay, so everyone watching right now is saying to themselves, I don't want my pension to go into these types of things. I don't want my 401k or my Roth IRA. So let's spend some time on where you think Americans should go, or what the conversation that they should have with each other. I should be talking to my husband who is in the New York State Teachers Pensions
Let me give you an
Program,
actionable item right now.
Yeah, let's
If
go
you
for
have
it.
a 401k, every single person watching this show should contact everyone they know. And if they have a 401k, they should do this too. You're going to draft an email immediately to your 401k manager telling them that you are revoking any implied or explicit like authorization to invest any part of your 401k in any private equity or high risk investment, period. Okay, you're going to say, I am revoking that, because you need to create a really good paper trail, because remember, they were given some protection on investing your money. But 401ks can be self-managed, and you have every right to say that things can't be invested where they want. It's only going to be through us denying them access to our investments that we get to stave off the absolute bankrupting of our 401ks and the $12 trillion they need to bail them out.
Okay, so this is a draft email, and you want to share this with everyone you know. And you know what? I'm going to put this, Tiffany, I'll grab this. We'll clip this video, and I will get basically a transcript of what you just said, and we'll push it out to everyone we know. And then you guys can share it with everyone you know. But essentially, you're going to draft an email to the company or your contact who manages your 401k. Would this apply to an IRA as well?
IRAs are different. They don't have access right now.
Okay, good. Okay, that's good. So no access to IRA. But if you have a 401k, you're going to draft an email immediately, and you're going to share it with everyone you know that this is, they have absolutely zero authorization, not implied or explicit authorization, to invest any of your funds into risky
private equity, private credit markets, or any high risk investments right now.
Or any high risk investments right now. And we'll get a transcript of that and push it out so that you guys can copy paste it.
I would also encourage, for anybody that has a pension, whether you're a pensioner now or you have a pension coming down the road, you guys need to get really active in your pension board elections.
Okay.
You need to start asking every single person running for that board where they fall on private equity, because you don't have control of your pensions. Those are governed by the boards that get elected. You need to start getting really loud with the people that want your votes and the oversight of your pension. And you need to know exactly where they fall on private equity investment and private credit investment.
Okay, so for those of you who have pensions, let's reiterate that. Thank you so much, Tiffany. You do not have direct access. You can't pick stocks or bonds or private equity or anything for your pension. This is managed by a board. And so you need to know the names of the people on the board. You need to be in contact with the people on the board. Maybe you need to run for the board yourself.
Yes.
Get involved. Like these are all, this is when, we talk about, bottom up activity and organization. This is where we have so much power as American citizens. Much of our attention is drawn to Washington, D.C. and the dumpster fire that is Washington, D.C. We are drawn to the national elections every 2 or 4 years, when there's so much that we could be doing just in the build outs of these massive data centers. We're seeing Americans across the country. It's beautiful to watch, by the way, just descending on zoning board meetings and town board meetings, basically saying, oh, hell no, Mark Zuckerberg's Manhattan-sized data center is not going to be in my backyard. No, thank you.
And the other thing we need 100,000 Americans to get out and run for office right now. Yeah. And I don't care what your platform is. I'm going to be very honest. All I need is 100,000 people to have one thing in their platform, and they will get my support. And that is that you will not take money from corporations, super PACs. You will not take money from corporate PACs or other countries. That's it. If you run on an anti-corruption platform, I really don't care what the rest of your beliefs are. I don't, because if you don't serve the people, we'll vote you out.
That's right.
If you don't run on somebody else's money. So as long as you don't take money from somebody else, I will vote for you. I will use my platform to get you votes. I swear to, we need 100,000 people running for office. And do you know how many people run unopposed in their elections every single year? We have surprise upsets because the same guy has been elected and they thought it was a safe seat for 25 years straight. Go run for something. Get out there. We can do this.
I love that. And I think the anti-incumbent message is going to be very, very attractive to more and more Americans. The baby boomers who are very sticky when it came to their political parties, right? Because they're in cults, they're phasing out. And we are now moving into Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z. And I can say as a Gen Xer, we are much less sticky when it comes to these parties. I would be perfectly fine
What
voting
party?
for, yeah, exactly.
We've had the same foreign and fiscal policy for 30 years, no matter who we've elected, only in
Exactly.
service of billionaires and our allies. What party?
Absolutely. Do you know what the fastest growing party in New York State is, Tiffany?
I would hope the independents, but I don't think it's a
Yeah.
party.
It's not even, well, there is an independent party, but they suck. It's the blank no party. That's what I am.
Love it.
They call you a blank. You get nothing.
We love that.
But it's the fastest growing category of voter in New York State.
I'm speaking at the Independent National Convention again this year.
I
And
love
I think that the independent movement is growing. I spoke in 2024, and I'm going to be speaking again here in 2026.
I think that's amazing. The New York State Independent Party is one of those fake parties that is really actually running cover for like the Democrats or something. You know what I mean? So it's not here in New York State. Our state party is not that great, which is why, because I love the idea of being independent, but when I looked at what they did, I'm like, no, it's kind of like the conservative party in New York State. They run cover for the GOP because anyone who's disaffected from the GOP is like, well, I'm a conservative, but the conservatives never win anything ever. That's the point. They just draw votes away. You know what I mean? So no, I think you're right. We just need to overwhelm regular people, overwhelming the system, throwing out incumbents, reaching across the line. I think the anti-corruption angle is perfection when it comes to marketing. And I'm a marketer. I've been a marketer for many, many years. I think that's the way to go. And I'm very, very optimistic, Tiffany, when you talk about how, they certainly are trying to set up this apparatus to keep us little people out and to, protect the elite class and then go into your bunkers when everything falls apart. But, there's so much that we can do. And I think just the nature of the number of us is where that power really is. And if enough Americans can protect their 401ks and raise holy hell about their pensions and bring awareness to this, when they try to drop the bomb, the financial bomb on our heads, more of us will be solvent and more of us will be able to help our neighbors in our communities. And that's a great thing. Where would you recommend people? I don't want to ask you financial advice, but it's, people are like, where do the stock market is crazy. We don't try. I mean, the dollar is
right now. I've been looking to invest in private and like public benefit corporations.
Okay.
They get to put a public good ahead of the shareholders, which I realize as a shareholder, you probably want them to put you first, but that's kind of what's brought us here. And so at this point, I'm looking for ethical investments, and I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't like give financial advice like in a way that I can tell people is ethical.
Right.
But when it comes to ESOPs, employee stock ownership programs, working for companies that have those are amazing.
Interesting.
And I also like certified B Corps that are doing some kind of good that are dedicated to anything other than just money. Right. I do think that there's ethical ways to invest. It's not easy. It takes research, but I do believe it can be done.
That's really interesting. My sister is like a chief financial something at some company. She's an accountant and she runs an ESOP. And I'm so confused about it when she talks. I don't know what she's
the employee stock ownership program. It means that your employees always have a vested interest in the success of the company. They have ownership in the success, and so they're more likely to be loyal and dedicated to that success because their retirement is linked to it too. Not just in the pension, but in the long-term success and the stock holdings.
That's pretty cool. Okay, we have to have another show and just go into and we
didn't get to housing, so we have more to talk about.
We do have more to talk about. And the housing thing is breaking my heart.
I know.
It's breaking my heart because I can't afford my own house. How are my children going to afford their houses if we keep on this trajectory? And Donald Trump saying his mission is to keep housing prices high so that boomers feel
the private equity firms own all of it. They need it up there. Of course, that's the goal. An artificially inflated market is perfect for them. They need it to collateralize some more bad debt.
Unbelievable. Tiffany Cianci, how can people support you, follow you, get all of your work, let people know where they can go to make sure they never miss any of your analysis? Because again, you are one of the best in the world.
Thank you. They
And I
can visit me on TikTok at Tiffany Cianci, Tiffany Cianci over on YouTube, and I'm the Vino Mom on Instagram and X, tiffanycianci.com. And as always, you can just kind of follow me everywhere I go.
Okay, well that's great, and I will have you back in. You know, I don't want to ask too often, but I do. There really is so much that we can learn from you, and I always have a little roster of some of my faves, like people who come in on a regular basis. So, in 4 or 5 weeks, I'd love to have you in again, and then we'll talk about housing and all the things. But in the meantime, keep up the great work, and thank you for everything you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. She is Tiffany Cianci, crash course in private credit, private equity, and how to protect your retirement, your 401k, and your pension. Those are the two areas at risk today. We're going to make sure to clip part of this video. I'll push it out as a short, and we'll make sure that we get the transcript for you so that you can share this with everyone that you know, along with the link to the show, so that your friends and family can begin to understand private equity, private credit, and how these can impact your retirement and your savings. Information is power, and the more people that understand what's going on, the better. So huge thank you to Tiffany Cianci for all of her great work. And thank you to all of you on the chat. I didn't get a lot of questions. I didn't see a lot of questions from you guys, but that's okay. I mean, I wanted to give Tiffany as much time as possible to explain what was going on here. But yeah, I see you, CJP Rumble. Thank you guys for all of your comments. Mark Cornk, I see you. Silver and gold are real money as determined by the Articles of Confederation in the Constitution. The problem is the devalued, corrupt markets, have not changed. Well, yeah, definitely. You guys know I'm a huge fan of, I'm in everything, essentially. I obviously, a little bit of real estate, gold and silver, physical gold and silver for sure, in your safety deposit box or in a safe. I do have a gold silver IRA through Shift Gold, who is a sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show. I'm in the stock market, so I have a Roth IRA, not a 401k, and I absolutely trust my manager, Don Polano, PCM and Associates. At this point, I don't think I'm in very, very boring stocks, like, no risk at all. Mining stocks, Mark the Regan, I see you on the live chat. And this is not financial advice, this is just what I'm doing. In times of great chaos, I feel like you kind of have to have everything diversified. You have to have a little everywhere. I have some cash. Peter Schiff is very bullish on mining stocks. And I don't disagree with that, Mark the Regan, just because it is so clear, so clear that the world, the globe, in the next 10, 15 years is moving away from the dollar. I do believe, and this is just my opinion, that de-dollarization is already in play. It's already happening. It's over. And we're going to see that impact the United States of economy for quite some time. It's going to be very bumpy here in the US. And so as we are seeing de-dollarization and moving away from what Catherine Austin Fitts would call she would call it a what is the word that she uses? Oh, a unipolar world order, meaning that the US is like the one big dog and everything revolves around the dollar. Into a multipolar financial situation where we're going to have potentially a lot of competing currencies, and that market is going to open up, which I think is a good thing. That it's pretty clear to me, gold has been made a tier 1 asset. We're seeing sovereign nations moving into gold, massive financial situation or massive financial institutions moving in to gold and metals. And so I think that's definitely going to be a player. It's not going to be the only thing. There's still going to be markets. There's still going to be a stock market. There will still be crypto. Right now, I'm not in any crypto or anything digital. I know a lot of people who are very smart that are quite comfortable with crypto and digital. I am not, because I just think it's too surveillable, too traceable, and you could, just erase it overnight. It's just, I don't know. I just don't like it. But a lot of people that I know are comfortable in that area. And it's going to be an area, right? We're going to see some type of tokenization. I mean, Peter Schiff is actually creating tokenized gold, which I think is brilliant. It's essentially holding people's gold for them, because that's where the expense comes from. It's expensive to hold large amounts of gold, but holding people's gold for them so that they can use gold and silver as a literal currency. Like you could have like a card that is, acts exactly like a debit card, where you use your gold and you're able to buy and sell and trade in the same way you would maybe your bank account by writing checks, except for in the case of a bank account, the bank doesn't have your money. You're loaning the bank money, not the other way around. So it's actually a better system. And I'm seeing, the pirate money guy, Kevin Jennings, I think is his name. There's stuff happening in Texas. There's stuff happening in Florida, multiple states about gold and silver as legal currencies. Some of them are creating state sovereign banks. Florida has already done that. So this is all moving. And it's exciting, right? Because we do need something that is stabilized and not corrupt. So we're going to be keeping an eye on all of this. But yes, I am certainly interested in the gold mining stocks, because that means that this is long term, and so we're going to see a lot of efforts to extract that gold. So yeah, very interesting. All right, Chronozone 777, CJP Rumble, Mod Trend. Thank you guys so much for being with us on the live chat. Those of you who have watched on Substack, appreciate you. On Twitter, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tomorrow, I am going to do a show. It's going to be early. Okay, so we are going to do an SJ movie showing, documentary showing tomorrow, but I'm going to start it early because I've got a lot of stuff going on. And as you guys know, flying out to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, to cover the COVID shot damages case. It is a civil case against Albert Bourla, Bill Gates, and Dutch officials. I'm going to be heading out there with Sasha Latapova, among about 30 other international reporters are going to head out to Amsterdam, and we're going to be reporting. So I'm going to be doing walk and talks and some type of program on Monday and Tuesday. It's just not going to be what I normally do or at the normal time, because I'm going to be in Amsterdam time. So make sure you guys sign up right now, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, for my e-blast, because you'll be notified when I go live. And this is especially important on Rumble. Follow me on Rumble so that you get notified through Rumble as well when I'm live. Tomorrow's going to be 9-ish. I don't know. Just keep an eye out and look for that email. I'll push it out, but I'm thinking around 9-ish to do the Rumble premium broadcast tomorrow. So we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, the rest of the day. And, make sure that you get those summit tickets as well. TheShannonJoy.com, TheShannonJoy.com. All right. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll be back again tomorrow to do it all again on The Shannon Joy Show.